What's going on, everybody? It's Eli here from TreeFall Studios, bringing you a brand new developer commentary episode on Maze Pedestal of Trials. This game is just about finished, and today I'm going to show you some of the final touches that has brought this whole game together right before its submission to PlayStation. Okay, as you can see, we are on the title screen and we have a whole new logo. I redrew the maze logo. There's a new little animation that swoops down the maze letters individually, and then the Pedestal of Trials logo hops up below it. And then we have the options here for new game and load game. So I'm going to pop into new game here and just briefly show you this intro, and then I'm going to cut most of it out just because it is like a minute long or so. But just to show you a little bit of it, it's really awesome. I built this entire massive maze right here just for this intro, and then I decided to design it into an entire level anyways, and then I added it into the game as a bonus level. So you can see, just like the original maze game, there was a giant intro cutscene, and I'm doing the same thing in this game, except for the camera is much more fluid, the level is much larger, and the text is animating in and out. So it just looks so much better overall. I guess I'm just going to go ahead, it's almost over, so I'm going to go ahead and play through the entire thing to show you how you start into a new game. So then it goes into the fade out and you drop right into the tutorial level, which is basically part of the hub world, and this is what I'm really excited about. One of the biggest changes that I made to the game since the last devlog. This original section of the tutorial level was enclosed. It was basically like a cave, and as you can see, I have gotten rid of the roof because it was just too dark. Even with the lights and the crystals and stuff, I just didn't like how it looked. So instead I made these beams here so you can see they add a little bit of interesting lighting to it with shadows on the side, and it's it's brighter in this room as you do the tutorial and all. So when you start it, the first tutorial text flies down from the top and it shows you how to jump. So you press X to jump, and then the moment you jump over there, the next tutorial will come flying in from the side. And just to go ahead and show you some of the touches here, as you complete this interactive tutorial, it will delete the actual instructions so they're not hanging around. So you do that. This basically tells you now in this game, if you fall or hit an obstacle, you're going to respawn and not get a game over. And then when you turn and look, this teaches you how to place a checkpoint. When you drop the checkpoint, the text changes and tells you how to warp back to the checkpoint, and then when you do that, it will destroy the wall that was in front of you, so then you can progress through the level. This tutorial text only shows up if you've already created a game, which is unlike the last maze game, so this is a little bit better feature. So it will let you know if you keep going this way, go on past it, it will delete itself and you'll open up the door and you'll start a whole new game and it will erase the data. So another cool feature that I worked on over the last couple weeks since the last devlog is I added a sound effect for these mazes when you get to the entrance of the maze, and also, as you can see, they're all locked. So I have now successfully put the story in order to where you have to do maze 1 and then all the rest of the mazes unlock. So let's take a look at that. So if you can hear that, I made a new swoosh sound effect, so when the UI comes swinging in, there's a little sound effect that accompanies that. I think that's so much better. And as you can see, when you stand in front of a maze right at the start of a new game, it will say locked. It does not give you an option to enter, and the aura around the entrance has red particles, and as you can see on the unlocked mazes, they're blue, and when you jump into them, they turn green. So we're going to jump right into maze 1, and I'm going to show you just a brief little bit about this. I'm going to skip through some of this. So what I decided to do was basically There's not as much tutorial in this game about getting the coins and all that, since this is a sequel to the original Maze. This is basically the next step for the Maze franchise, so players are going to be familiar with it. So I force players to go through that short tutorial to learn how to jump, learn how to use the new checkpoint system, and then instead of you being able to just jump into the hardest maze right away and being really confused, you have to go through one of the simpler mazes. This maze is pretty simple and it's designed to not be too difficult. There's basically only one way through it, and most of the little turnoffs here, like this for instance, are very short, so you don't really get lost. You can walk right back out to where you were, and then the coins kind of guide you through it to show you how the game works, and that you need to grab all of these coins right here in this little drop down in order to get to the finish. Also, so what I decided to do was make this level forced as the first level basically be an extension of the tutorial. I also decided to make it a little bit of cinematic. So as you can see, as you walk through certain sections of the maze, you will trigger animations talking about, you know, this is a TreeFall Studios game, an Eli Brewer game, that kind of thing. And then you'll see in just a second, so we're gonna go ahead and hop really quickly to farther into the level so we don't spoil too much. And as you approach this point, this is my favorite new touch, and it shows all of the people who supported us on Patreon over the last little bit during this game's development cycle. So I just really wanted to throw that in there and have a cooler reward that's a little bit more unique for the people who support us on Patreon. If you think that sounds kind of cool and you would like to be featured in a video game like that, you can always join our Patreon page using the links in the description below. I show off cool little behind the scenes posts. You get shout outs in our YouTube videos, and your name is featured in the credits of our games that release on major store platforms like the PlayStation 4 and Steam, for instance. So now we're going to jump ahead, and I'm going to show you one more cool thing that I did to the intro of this maze, and then we'll move on to the next spot. Alright, so once you get through the first 3 sections of this maze, you arrive at this elevator here, and then when you jump on this elevator, it will rise up, and you should be facing about this direction. And as you can see, you look over the entire level, and then the Maze Pedestal of Trial logo fades in. So I think that is just an epic touch. This new first level is been turned into basically a little bit of an interactive cinematic type of level. It's teaching you how to play the game, basically teaching you in your brain behind the scenes how the level design works for this game. And it also shows you different things like the people who helped support the game, the people that made the game, the logo and all of that. Just kind of like more professional, you know, AAA titles you would see intro credits. I always think those are really just cool, nice touches. So I wanted to do that in this game because it's just so much bigger and better than the previous maze entry, I believe. So I really enjoy that. So let's move on, and I will show you the next big change that was touched up this week. So one of the other things that I took care of this week right before finishing this game up was I wrote a new theme song for this tomb maze. I'll be quiet for just a second to give you a sneak preview of what that sounds like. So yeah, I really enjoy this new theme for this maze. I really like it. I think it fits the vibe pretty well. I also readjusted some of the lighting for this to kind of make it more efficient running on console. Some of the effects were running a little bit slower on the PlayStation, and I didn't notice that on my computer, so I kind of toned it down a little bit, but also edited it just where I still had about the exact same effects, so you can't really see any difference, but it's a little bit better on performance. So I'm very excited for everyone to check out this level as well. So the last thing I'm going to show off for this week's devlog, and this is basically the final thing, is showing you just a tad bit of this giant new bonus maze. This is the maze from the intro story. I'm just going to run over here so you can see the maze from story 2. So this maze is was so fun to design. It has a lot of verticality to it. It's separated into 4 giant squares in which you have to jump from maze to maze, and as you can see, there's a maze down here. You can see across the way there's a way to get out. As you can see from up here, if you go across the tops of these walls, there's a way to enter into that maze. And as you can see, the other mazes behind the first 2 actually start to get taller, and they have multiple stories to them. So this is just a whole lot of fun. This is completely separate outside of the main game. This is not the final level that you unlock to beat the game. This is just a complete bonus, just because I was developing something cool for the intro story, and I was like, well, if I'm gonna put all this work into making something cool for the story, might as well let everybody check it out and play in the play box for themselves. So this maze is completely bonus. It wasn't originally designed to go into this game, and it will be unlocked if you beat the game 100% by completing every other level in the game, and then this will be an extra secret bonus for you to check out. So that's going to do it for today's devlog. This is going to be the final devlog for May's Pedestal of Trials. The next time I post a new devlog, it will be on the next game that we are working on, because there's not really a whole lot much more to show for this game per se. The only things I've got left to finish now before going ahead and submitting it to Sony is finishing up the trophies, making sure that they all work correctly, doing the little trophy art icons, and also finishing the credits and writing one more song for that level. I'm going to be writing that song this afternoon, so the game is going to be really close to finished up, and should be hopefully releasing within the next month or so. I'm very excited. I've shown a whole lot of this game off, but there's still quite a bit to see for everyone who has not been keeping up with the devlogs, and even if you've seen every single one of them, there's still quite a bit of surprises for you to check out in this game. I'm very excited for how we're going to release this game at a little bit of a lower price point, and I'm excited to see what everybody thinks about it, because there's a whole lot of new puzzles and fun gameplay elements in this game that did not exist in the other games. For instance, the speedrun community is really going to be able to do some unique things with this checkpoint system. Like, for instance, we missed this coin down here. You can just jump down there and warp right back to the checkpoint and then keep going. So there's going to be all sorts of cool little loops and tricks that you can do by dropping checkpoints and then falling down and, you know, grabbing something that you might have missed, and then, or not having to backtrack throughout an entire area. If you can see that it looks like this is going to be a deep twist of walls that you're about to go into, you can just drop a checkpoint, explore. Once you get to the coin or you find a dead end, you just warp right back, and then boom, you're done. So I'm very excited to see what everybody thinks of this game. It's got a whole lot going for it compared to the first game. So without further ado, guys, I will catch you in the next video. If you enjoyed this video and you're new to the channel, be sure to hit the like button. Subscribe if you want to see more game development content like this, where I show you how and why I've made what I've made in my games, giving you progress updates on new games that I'm going to be releasing. I also give new game developers or people who are aspiring game developers tips and tricks and tutorials on how to get started from scratch if you know nothing about game development. So if that sounds cool to you, be sure to hit that subscribe button so you never miss an upload. Alright guys, I'll catch you in the next video.